Odin and Loki, blood brothers. In Lokasenna, it's mentioned that Loki and Odin are bound by blood oaths. They are blood brothers. It's even theorized that Loki may have been one of Odin's brothers that helped make the worlds and mankind. Yet, we don't see Loki in the continental Germanic lore. So how did Loki come to be? Most gods have verifiable cognates in other cultures. An equivalent, though different, at their core they share the same archetype, the same semantic centers. While researching archetypes and the evolution of the gods through cultures and religions across the ages, I noticed something. Prior to the Norse, the cognates of Odin took the place of Loki. Or, more accurately, Loki was created from the archetype Odin shares with other gods. As mentioned in my Odin video, gods like Veles and Velenaz are the antagonists, the gods of darkness and magic. Descending from pastoral deities, they're gods of the underworld, like Cernunnos and Annwn, dark gods who rule over an afterlife. This is why Odin has Valhall. He's a trickster god of death and magic, magic being synonymous with forbidden and hidden knowledge. These gods also bear the snake symbolism we see in Loki, with his child Jormungandr and the venomous serpent above his head. As cultures evolve and their religions change, we often see this split, and sometimes even a merge. Even in the Norse, we almost see it directly with Frigg and Freya. Therefore, Loki must have been a Norse creation. Gods change, split, and merge based on the needs and perception of the people. The personality of the god is placed upon the original blueprint, the archetype. The Arch-heathen Norse must have felt a need for Loki. Think about how important he is in every event. The forging of Mjolnir, the walls of Asgard, the serpent adversary of the Thunderer being separate from the Synax, Odin. These must have been very important to the ancestors.
Loki is not Satan. Satan means enemy, and in Christianity, they use it for everything. So much, in fact, that simple enemies of the Israelites in the Bible are now confused with a malevolent anthropomorphic personification.
And who could it have been? Let's see, I don't know. Let me think. Let me knock on Mr. Noggin. Who could trick us into doing that? Could have been Satan.
Loki is the trickster archetype, the anthropomorphic personification of deviation, defiance, and poking the bear. The trickster serves to bring us knowledge and wisdom, to move things in unforeseen ways we may not want, but we need. It's thanks to Loki's shenanigans that we have Gungnir, Odin's spear, Skidbladnir, Frey's ship, and Mjolnir, Thor's hammer. Because of Loki's shenanigans, Baldur perished. But this was likely due to the hubris of Baldur's invulnerability. Baldur was perfect, and with great beauty comes great ego. But also, due to Loki's shenanigans, Baldur will come back after Ragnarok.
I swear to God, I'll pistol whip the next guy that says shenanigans.
Another tale of Loki poking at the heady hubris of the gods is in Lokasenna, where he goes to each god and points out something about them they were unwilling to face. Many people have strong walls up in order to not face their flaws. I believe this fragile hubris is why many conservative heathens find Loki disturbing. When have you been shown your own flaws? When have you had to face something about yourself you found uncomfortable? This is Loki pulling something from your shadow and bringing it to the light. Loki is a teacher, not a villain.
Hey Farva, what's the name of that restaurant you like with all the goofy shit on the walls and the mozzarella sticks? You mean shenanigans? Oh, you're talking about shenanigans, right?
Put those away!
But if a god is an archetype, how does that work? Does it make them lesser if they're not what pop culture and Christianity tell us they are? No. Just because something doesn't fit a certain paradigm or isn't fully understandable doesn't devalue it. We can't fully comprehend what a god even is. Some cultures venerate land spirits as gods. The apotheosis of the entity doesn't hold their value. What is sacred, what is worthy of worship, is up to you. There's a shallow understanding of the archetypal polytheist perspective, particularly that if gods are archetypes, then they must be purely psychological, and therefore they cannot be worshipped. This is vapid and lacks any depth of thought. Worship means to give worth. You're simply recognizing value, oftentimes through ritual, like bloat and stumble. You can worship an idea. You can recognize the value of a thought, concept, or fiat system, just as you can recognize the value of a person, ancestor, or greater spiritual being. And how do you know the gods aren't both? Spiritual beings likely have different laws of physics than we do. It's plausible that Loki and Odin can share the archetype of the trickster while simultaneously being separate beings. Dionysus, ARAWN, and Odin all share the concept of divine inspiration through consumption of the spiritual energy. Dionysus represented the sap, lifeblood, and ecstasy element of nature. Odin gained the meat of poetry, which inspired art. The other energy Odin is named for is the force of passion that inspires Skald and Berserker in different ways. This also makes sense because the Greek Dionysia and Roman Bacchanalia share the time near the solstice, same as Yule. ARAWN, god of the Welsh underworld, inspires through an energy called ARAWN. In my Odin video, I showed that ARAWN and Odin are cognates of the same archetype. Likewise, Valhall shares cognates with the Greek Elysium, which resides in Hades. Valhall existing in Hell is something I've heard from many academics. We'll explore this in my upcoming Hell video. All of these similarities don't mean that Odin, Loki, or any of their cognates are lesser. In fact, it means they have more depth. It means humanity is connected despite the categorical separations we place on one another. And what's more Loki than rattling the comfortable cages we've all come to enjoy?
Are there direct sources of Odin and Loki as brothers? Well, sort of. The popular myth about the mythology is that Thor and Loki are brothers. Nope, that's just in Marvel Comics. In the lore of the Norse arch-heathens, there is no sibling connection betwixt Loki and Thor. Loki and Odin, on the other hand, in Lokasenna, the blood oath between Odin and Loki is used by Loki to enter Aegir's Hall. They are referred to as blood brothers. Of course, this could be written off as the oath bond, though the connection of Odin to libations is there as Loki drinks when Odin drinks. Interesting, since Odin in Grimnismal is said to only drink wine, another interesting archetypal connection to Dionysus. There's no direct confirmation that they're brothers, but we can suss out an argument through context clues. Odin, Vili, and Ve are the three brothers who slay Ymir to forge the worlds in Yggdrasil. In Voluspa, their names are given as Odin, Hoenir, and Lothurr. Odin, Hoenir, and Loki are frequently together in the lore, traveling and having adventures. Not much is known about Lothurr. He basically gives humanity the blood and warmth in their veins. It's plausible but unverified that Loki is Lothurr. But, taking in the archetypal connection, I believe there's more than scholars can agree upon. Snorri's Edda states that Loki also has two brothers, Bylests, possibly Bylester or Bylepter, and Helbindi. In Grimnismal, Helbindi is given as one of Odin's many names. So it's entirely plausible that sharing an archetype and these connections means they're canonically brothers. Which also means that, with what Loki says to Frigg in Lokasenna, he may have tapped that, or at least an Eiffel Tower. I wonder what they called Eiffel Towers before they built the Eiffel Tower. Maybe that's what it's named after. There's another possibility. Given that we know of all these connections and possible connections, we also know Loki and Odin are two of the craftiest con artists in Norse heathen lore. What if all these breadcrumbs are intentional misdirection? What if they did it on purpose? I guess we'll never truly know for certain.